Hello again. So today I was going to make a small application with McCLIM just to consolidate some of the stuff that I've been learning over the last week or so. But first I'd like to check out one of the demos that I didn't check out on the last video. I went back and took a look. Confession, I went back and played that Logic Cube game a few times when I was bored, and I checked out one of the demos that I went through some of the rest of the demos that I hadn't looked at before, and I checked out one of them that was called German Towns, which showed an interesting way that a user might make use of the interactor pane. So in this example, you see a map of Germany and some towns. If you click on a town, it will give you some information on it. Same thing if you click on Show Town Info, it will call the same command, but this command needs an argument, what town. You can either type in the argument and it'll give you the information, or alternatively you can click on the town and it'll fill it in for you. Get distance, a similar idea except that it needs 2 arguments. And it'll tell you the distance in pixels. And just like Show Town Info, you can also click on the towns and it'll fill it in for you. So that shows one possible way the interactor can be handy in your user interface. So I'm going to make a project right now, and we'll use the menus and the tabs to put together a small text editor based on the editor layout gadget that McCLIM provides. So let's make this project. And I put it in local projects instead of, you know what, for now I'm just going to redo this command just to keep things simple, and I'll remove that extra one later. And let's take a look at our package file. We want to use McCLIM Lisp and McCLIM tab layout. I don't think this tab layout is technically part of the McCLIM specification. But it's something that we have available to us in McCLIM. We might as well use it. I can see a problem here already. Let me get that colon in there. And let's actually start coding up our editor. So we need our main application frame, and this is a class, so I believe this first set of parentheses will represent superclasses, and this will represent slots. We have slots available to us that we can pull out of our application frame in the commands that we create later. When we make this pane, we'll have a dynamic variable called application frame, which we can use with any command that's called from this frame in order to pull out slots and data that we might need. Yes, let's have some pointer documentation. We'll make a menu bar in just a moment. And our panes. We're going to have a default tab that's a new document, a blank document. It will be a text editor gadget. And the text editor gadget ignores this height parameter. I believe I've been playing around with it, with these gadgets, for the last few days in preparation for this. It would have been instructive probably to videotape me playing around with it and seeing all the errors that I made and all the runtime errors that popped up and how to fix them. But unfortunately I can't be taking video constantly. Sometimes I do this in a shared space and other people have their things that they're doing and they don't need the distraction of me making commentary on what I'm doing every moment. So anyways, I'll put a height in here and we'll see momentarily that it's ignored. And one thing we can do about it, I haven't got a really nice solution yet, really elegant solution yet to this, but we'll throw in a hack that will work for the moment for this toy application. Okay, and an interactor pane. Doesn't need to be really big. And let's set up our default layout. We'll have a vertical layout that starts with a tabbed layout pane. Give it a name so we can look this pane up. And we'll give it one tab to start with, which is going to be our new document tab. And then below the tabbed layout pane, we're going to have our interactor as the second pane in our vertical layout. And that is all for our frame. Notice we promised it a menu bar, so I will make a menu bar. and that's going to be done with make command table. And it's going to have one drop down menu from it. Here we can either place menus with menu, or we can do actual commands with command. I'm going to do a menu, and let's call it the file menu, since that's what it is. And so we probably want to put together a menu for our file menu. Okay, and our menu is going to consist of a new command. We want to be able to make a new file for our text editor. Open what else? Text. It's always good if a text editor can save your work. Let's make a command to close the current tab if we don't want to work on a specific file anymore. And command to quit. While we're here, let's put a definition for our quit command. When we make this, define this application frame, we get this macro define editor command, this macro that it prepares for us based on the name of our application frame. And we will call it quit and make it runnable from the interactor as well as the menu. And quit is going to close our application frame. Now here I'm going to look up how I did that before in our toy app, because I don't remember off the top of my head okay, frame exit. Is how we exit from that application frame, and we want a way to run this, and I exported an app main procedure to run our application frame, so let's make that. By the way, I think we need an extra set of parentheses there in define editor command. So run frame top level, make application frame editor. And let's see if that gets us something we can start with. Okay, let's return to the top level. I forgot one thing on here. Actually, we are using McCLIM and Common Lisp. So I think we should be able to run frame top level unless I'm mistyping the command. Alright, there we go. So here we have our frame. Notice we wanted our application. Here we have our application. Notice we wanted our editor to be 400 pixels high, but we got a one-line editor. So I make lines and I go up and down, and we only see one line at a time. We've got our menu. The only command we've implemented so far is quit. One thing we can do is set a number of lines. I'm going to put 23. The problem with this is that if you put too many lines, then when you go beyond the bottom of the screen, your cursor is off the screen and you can't see what you're typing anymore. If you put a limited number of lines on the screen, once you go beyond the bottom, it pages down, kind of like Emacs here, and you can see what you're typing still. I'll show this more clearly in a few minutes, but for now, let's compile our block of code here and notice that I've misspelled the option here, the argument. And here we go with an editor gadget that more or less fills out the space available to it. So right now we have an editor gadget. We can type text into it. But we can't really do anything more than that. So let's put together a save command and an open command. And maybe a new command. Let's put together new so we can put on a new tab and then we'll add save in and some other things. Alright, get that indented correctly there. So for a new procedure, we're going to, or a new command, we're going to want to create a new tab and have it just be a blank text editor. At the same time, thinking ahead, when I open a file, I'm also going to want to create a new tab. So I might save some effort later if I define a procedure that's called new tab. And a tab has a title, for example, here our default tab is untitled, so we're probably going to want an argument, and we can make it optional for the tab's title. And if we don't send it an argument, we'll for title we'll just call it untitled by default, and we'll leave the default option here for our new tab for a new file. Until it's saved, we'll just call it untitled. And are we going to want anything else? Well, this is going to be an editor tab, so it's going to have a text entry gadget, so maybe new editor tab is a better name for it. And we will want whatever text to show in it. This will be useful when we're opening an existing file, and we can leave it blank as our default for a new document. Alright, to create a new tab in our tab layout, we have an add page function in McCLIM. We're going to make an instance of tab page here. And we're going to give it a title of title, untitled by default. The pane is going to be a new text editor pane. We'll give it a number of lines. Let me put a large number of lines to show you what's going to happen if we have more than what appears on the screen. And it's going to have a value of the text. Just a minute, we're not actually done here, because add page is going to want a reference to our layout pane, our tab layout, the pane that goes with our tab layout here. So there's a procedure to find a pane, and we're going to use it to find the pane named editor layout. We named it editor here, but I'm going to name it editor layout because that's a little more descriptive. And I'm putting in tab layout enabled page is going to get us the current active page. Here there's only one. It's going to have the active tab, so I'm my mind is wandering and I'm going off into different things. Like I said, we want to actually find the editor layout pane. Find pane named, and it's going to ask us for an application frame, which is our current application frame, and the name of the pane that we're looking for. And so now we should have all the arguments at add page once. And by finishing up this function, new editor tab, we've finished up what define editor command needs. So let's see, if we haven't made any errors, we should be able to compile it and compile the define editor command, and we should have a new command that gives us a runtime error. So no applicable method for tab layout pages. Oh, that's because we renamed our tab layout, I think. Let's recompile this and run our application with our new tab layout. Let's put in some text. And let's get a new pane. Okay, so we've file new gives us a new new tab, which is untitled and which is empty, and it puts it into the first position of our tab layout. But let's say I made this new tab, but I don't want it anymore. Let's define the close command. And notice right now it's disabled. We can't use our close option in the menu because we haven't defined the command yet. So close is going to call a function called remove page, which is going to remove a tab, and we need to give it as an argument the tab we want removed. This is where tab layout enabled page can come in. But let me think ahead again. Is there any other place we're gonna need to get the current tab? Probably when we save a file, we're gonna want to get the current tab so we can get that its contents to save it. So there's at least two places where this is going to come in handy. So why not make a function to do it for us? And we're going to run tab layout enabled page, get the enabled page, and we need to put in as an argument our editor layout, this thing again. Okay, another function. I'm going to refactor as I type this in so that I don't have so that I follow to some degree the don't repeat yourself principle. Alright, let's make sure, now that we're calling a separate function, that our new command still works. Okay. And I think this should do what we want. No errors compiling it, good sign. And so we should have an enabled close option here. Let's close out these extra panes. Excellent. So it looks like it's working. So we've got a new command, we've got a close command. Let's get a command for saving our application. Here for saving and opening, I want to be able to write a string out to a file and to read a file into a string. And some other languages have functions, get file contents or whatever, that will do that for us. Let me make a utility function or two, since I'm going to be able to use these in other applications as well. Something to get a string out of a file. I don't know if this is considered good naming practice in the Common Lisp community, this sort of arrow I'm making here, but Lisp allows me to do that. Some other languages don't. I'm going to take advantage of what Lisp offers, what makes sense for me. So we want a path name. And we'll open a file. I think input is the default if you don't put any direction, but we'll just be explicit here. And we need a string to read it into. You can find a utility like this probably, I don't know, on Stack Overflow or something. Look for I'm sure there's various things that are going to look almost exactly like this already online. We want a string, we want space in it because our read function read sequence. Let me go here. Read sequence. You can tell I've looked this up recently. Reads into an already existing sequence from the stream. So we want an already existing sequence, which we'll do with make string. That's the length of the file. And we'll return the text that we read in. All right, simple enough. And we'll make another one to write a string out to a file. I'm putting text as the first argument and then path name afterwards because that kind of makes sense to me. If my function name is string to file, then I expect a string and a file, and that's how I'll remember the order. Otherwise, you can do whatever works for you, of course. Otherwise, in my case, I'd be forgetting, okay, which goes first, which goes next. Here I have what's to me a logical reason for the order of the arguments. And we want an open file. This time it's going to be output. I don't need to actually assign text because we've already got it. It's coming in as a parameter. So all we're going to need to do actually is print out the text to our file. And I think that's all we need for these utility functions. Okay, let's make sure they're available to our new command. So a save command. And here we're going to ask for some parameters from the user, some arguments from the user for this command. And McCLIM lets us do this with this set of parentheses that we've not used so far. And we're going to want path name. So we're asking the user to give us a path name. We're going to assign that to fn, and we're going to give it a default value. I'm running out of space on that line. Looks good to me. User home dir path name is built-in function in Lisp, in Common Lisp, as is merge path names, which is going to combine our directory with our file name here. And we're going to ask McCLIM to give us the default as the default. And I'm going to want the current tab but I'm also going to want the current pane actually, so I can get the contents of it here as a string to get the contents of our editor gadget. But I'm also going to want the tab because I want to rename it to something other than untitled when the user saves it, so that it has the file name or something like that. So I'm going to get the tab and then get the actual pane that the tab is holding, which we get from a function called tab page pane, to which we give naturally a tab as an argument. And then a new name for our tab to replace this untitled up here. And we'll just take the file name out of the path. Okay, with those set, let's call string to file. And for string to file that we just made, remember we need a string containing what we want to save and a path name containing the file we want to save it to. The path name's easy, that's just fn. Our string is going to be the value of our editor gadget, which is in curve pane. So to get the value of a gadget, we have a nice function called gadget value, and file name. Okay, so now we've saved the file, but we still haven't updated the title of our tab. Set F our tab layouts that McCLIM in the McCLIM framework or library, the tab layout that it gives to us has a function called tab page title, which returns a reference to the title here, and it can be used with setF to set the title. So there's our reference, and then we're going to give it a new name. Let's compile it, and we should have a save command now. Save, and it's asking us for a path name for the argument, and there's our default. Let's call it saved text. Oh, I've done this before. Or I've actually got a file name called save text already. Alright, let's return to the application command loop and save it as something else. In fact, yeah, save text too. Alright, so now we've saved it, and notice it updated our tab title. So if we open a new one, we've got save text 2, and so when we put together the open command, we can check and I'll be brave here and close this pane out and check and make sure I can open it again. Alright, I don't like how I've kind of messed up my interactor pane, so I'm just going to restart the app. But I want to show you in a new tab. I've messed that up anyway. What happens when we have so many lines? Notice now I'm typing off the bottom of the screen, and once we get to the number of lines, which was 35 on my 36th line, then we've gone off the bottom of the editor gadget and it pushes me down again. But the problem is, with that many lines, I'm no longer on the screen when I go past that number, and so I can't see what I'm typing. So I think 32 or 23 fit on there nicely, and actually that's going to be gonna fit on there really nicely, since our interactor pane is acting kind of weird right now. I don't know if this is a McCLIM bug or a bug in my application. I'll figure that out later. But you'll see that it acts a lot nicer now that we go off screen. It puts us back into the actual view. All right, now what is our open command? It's called come open. All right. And open, we're going to want a path name again. Hopefully my malfunctioning interactor pane is not gonna mess this up too much. In fact, one thing we can try . I don't want it to try and load a half finished function here and give me an error, so I'll comment that out for the moment. For the moment, that's a good looking interactor pane. Alright, so do I need a let here? We're going to be opening a file. And we've already got the path name of what we open. We just need to make a new tab. So remember, a new tab function took a file name, or a path name. Oh, our new tab command took a title for the new tab. That's why we're getting the name string there, and then a string, which we get from our file list string function. And that should be all we need for this command. So we should have just now added it to the editor. Alright, do you remember what we called our last file? I think it was called saved text 2. And there we have it. I opened a file, I don't need that blank one. And so now we have all our features in the editor. We can create a new file, we can save it, we can close our tab, we can open an existing file, we can quit, we can edit the file we've opened, I don't want to give it the same name because I remember it was crashing when we did that. Maybe there's an option to, with open file, that can just overwrite without giving us an error. I'll see if I can look it up real quick. If not, I think I'm about out of time for this video. So our options. So if exists supersede. Let's try that. And let me try to crash our application, giving it an already existing file name. Remember, this one already existed. It gave us an error at the beginning. Alright, now we have saved text. Let's close it out and open it. And we should be able to find our 3 lines. Excellent. So we have a working text editor. It's not going to replace Emacs anytime soon, but we've got a running program with a menu, with a tab layout, with a gadget that we're using, the text editor gadget, and we're pulling data from that text editor gadget to make use of it. In this case, save it into a text file. And there we go. Thank you for watching.